Hi, grade 9. So here is the notes for the second half of outcome number 1, or topic 2 from the textbook. And so we look at habitats and lifestyles and some definitions in here. Environment is your surrounding, and substrate is where something grows. Okay, so the substrate for dandelion would be the field that it grows in. The substrate for the fern would be the soil that it grows in, probably in a forest. We have term like niche, which includes where you live and what you do. And so in our notes, as we scroll down here, and so once again, the main purpose here is me giving you notes so that you can fill them in as you need to. And so you could just pause the video whenever you need to fill in blanks. And here is the niche of the tree. Here's a list of everything that that tree does and where it lives. So it's a home, it anchors the soil, it takes nutrients out of the soil and moisture. It also puts nutrients back out in the fall. It's a home for birds and squirrels. It's helped stabilize the ground. And where does this tree live? It lives in the forest as well. Okay, and so that is all part of its niche. And then we look at competition. So the only time organisms compete for resources is when it's scarce. And so at lunchtime, typically people compete for a space in line to get something at the canteen. There's deer that compete for space, and so if you're in a competition, you might have to change your niche, or you might decide to stay where you are and just fight it out. And then one of the deer, in this case, does better than the other. But a really effective way is to change your niche. Like owls and hawks used to hunt at the same time during the day. They changed their niche, the owls did, to avoid competition with the hawks. That means now both the hawk and the owl get more food because they're not fighting over the same source. Okay, and then even where organisms live, they might change where they live so that more of them can live in the same place and avoid competition with each other. In Canada, we have the organisms with very broad niches, so they can do lots of different things in lots of different places. So, organisms with broad niche, there's higher populations of them in general, but lower biodiversity. Okay, so like the organisms here never get a chance to fully in Canada uh, set up a permanent area because they have to be able to deal with seasons, and so usually they have to move with the seasons. And these organisms that can do lots of different things and live in lots of different places, they tend to be called generalists. This could become a disadvantage if the population of them becomes so high that they starve each other out. The opposite of that is the organisms with a narrow niche. So I'm just going to move this down here. Organisms who have narrow niches live in one place and tend to eat and do one thing. They're so specialized for staying in that place from intense competition that now they can't really go anywhere else. So this is typically tropics. If you chop down a tree in the tropics, the specialists will fall out of the tree. But as they try and go to another place, there's already a better competitor there because the the environment has been so stable for so long and the organisms have adapted for so long that they are awesome at living in their spots. So I mean, if you use example, if you are building a road through a tropical rainforest, it's horrible. As you chop down the trees to make the road, the specialists fall out and they tend to go extinct. But once the road is built, specialists tend to stay in one place, so they'd be okay. Whereas in the generalist area, if you chop down trees in Canada, the squirrels will fall out and they'll natter a bit and they'll go up to another spot. But the generalists, they need a lot of space in order for them to roam. And if you limit that space, then of course that becomes a detriment to them. So there is advantages to being a specialist or a generalist, and it really depends on where you live, how much of an effect that has. And then finally, and we look at symbiotic relationships, two organisms living together in direct contact. There's one where they both benefit, that's called mutualism. And there's one where right here you have to fill this part in, where one benefits and the other one's affected. That's called parasitism. And finally, there is a relationship where one benefits, the other one's unaffected. That's commensalism. So like tapeworm, parasitism. You and if you have a pet dog while you're in direct contact, you both support each other. That's mutualism. Commensalism would be like a little plant growing up on a tree. If it doesn't affect the tree, it commensalism, where one benefits and one's unaffected. And that brings us to the end of outcome number 1. At this point in time, there's a worksheet on commensalism, quick 90-second worksheet you would do. You would also do page 25 in the textbook, so that's like a 30-minute set of questions. And then finally, there will be a quiz on outcome number 1, where it'll be about 12 multiple choice and about 6 short marks from short answer. So that is the end of outcome 1 and probably the end of week 3 of science. So fill in whatever you need to from this video, pause it as you're going along.